So I am sitting in some low sand dunes, sheltering from a gentle breeze. It's 5:45 in the morning and my location is 22 degrees north, 57 degrees east, and I'm looking out over a beautiful orange glow starting to appear over the Indian Ocean as the waves break on a beautiful flat white beach. So it's January the 6th, 2025. It's day one of the Jewel of Arabia expedition, and my name's Mark Evans. I'm on the journey with a fantastic team of people who I'm going to introduce you to over the next few days as we journey through Oman in the footsteps of British explorer Bertram Thomas. And the beach I'm sitting on was the very beach where Thomas landed on December the 27th, 1927, which I think is 97 years ago. And he landed here because he wanted to do a journey down the southeast coast of Oman all the way to Salalah. And he wanted to use that journey to test himself for a much bigger goal, which he was to do 2 years later in crossing the greatest and the largest sand desert on earth, the Rub al Khali. So for the next 30 days we're going to be following in Bertram Thomas's footsteps. But yesterday, like any final preparation day for an expedition departure, was very, very busy. Loading the vehicles, trying to get everything loaded in the right sequence for how we might want them when we arrive at the campsite, which we did later than we hoped for yesterday, but everything gets in the way. Everything's much slower than you takes much longer than you think it will. The travel was a bit slower. We stopped and had a bit of food and but got a bit of fruit so it could be as fresh as it could possibly be to last us for the next few days, because what we're going to do over the next few days is to head southwest into the interior to a community in this wonderful country of Oman called Jalan, because in Thomas's day the sheikh, the paramount person in Jalan, was the person who ruled the region, and it was to Jalan and the fort, the large mud brick fort in Jalan, that Thomas had to go to really get support, get camels, because he arrived on this little beach by boat from the capital of Oman, Muscat, just around the corner really, and he had to secure camels and guides to help him achieve his goal. So that's going to be our goal today, is to start our own journey. We're going to start slowly. We have 2 camels here. We're going to aim to cover about 20 kilometers today and see where that takes us, and hopefully by the end of today we'll be able to stop a little bit earlier with the bit of daylight and set up camp in good time and get ourselves a bit more organised than we were when we arrived yesterday. But we ate when we arrived and we're in our sleeping bags by 9 o'clock. Incredible starry sky, just beautiful shooting stars. Saturn was in the sky. We could see Venus just below, a beautiful crescent moon. So everyone's had a good night's sleep. We're just going to get the camels. We have 2 camels. Just going to get the camels down to the water's edge and do a group photograph, because this is where the journey begins, and we look forward to you joining us as we walk and joining us around the campfire to hear tales of this incredible country called Oman. So 8 hours after I did that first recording this morning, we find ourselves in a small Bedouin community on the edge of a mixed area of sand and rock. It's a beautiful, beautiful landscape, and I have to say our first day has been a challenging day. Vehicles getting stuck and navigation was really tricky because you're constantly losing sight of each other as you travel. But that's why we're here. We're here to experience the landscape. but what a landscape it's been. And one of the key points of focus of the Jewel of Arabia expedition is to celebrate Oman's biodiversity. And the biodiversity we have experienced today has been absolutely fantastic. From when we left the beach, where I did my first recording this morning at sunrise, the sun set here now about an hour ago, but at sunrise we awoke to terns and gulls and cormorants on that really busy, noisy beach. But once we got the camels loaded after breakfast and saddled up, we followed the road for a while because it's rained quite heavily here in eastern Oman, and a lot of the areas by the side of the road that we hope to travel through are open water, and worse still when that water starts to dry out, something called subka, which is like quicksand. And it's hard enough driving a four-wheel drive vehicle through subka, but taking your camels is incredibly difficult because they have very little grip on those pads. They are pretty much like walking on slick tyres. And if your camel loses its footing on subka and does the splits or falls on its side, you can't get a vehicle anywhere near to help get it up. And it's, you almost have to say goodbye to your camel. So we had to skirt around. We had to, rather than walking west, we had to head quite a way south before we cut west today. So our GPS may well only say 11 kilometres in a straight line, but actually we've done about 15 to 18, which for a first day is more than enough. Walking away from the camp this morning, once Oman TV, our friends who joined us for the sunrise photographs, which was just beautiful this morning. Once they'd gone, walking along the edge of these open water lakes, flamingos. If any ornithologists are listening to this, we had flamingos, black-winged stilts, green shank, red shank, all sorts of wading birds, desert larks singing, sand grouse flying up. It was just one species after another. Wheatear, swallows that could well have nested in my garage in Scotland this summer, flying around. So absolute paradise. Every bush we walked past was full of locusts, so an explosion of locusts every time your clothing brushed a bush. And in his diary in 1927, Bertram Thomas spoke about travelling through jungles of Acacia. And I would really describe some of the terrain that we travel through today as jungles, almost impenetrable vegetation, which the camels were very reluctant. Armour's camels. Armour is part of the team, and I'll be running through the team members in the next couple of podcasts with you. But Armour's camels have grown up in the desert, in the sand. They rarely see trees, and confronted by a wall of greenery, they are very reluctant. So it's been a day of tight leashes trying to guide these camels and encourage these camels through really thorny scrub. So my hands are cut to ribbons, but in the end we had to again deviate quite a way south, not to avoid open water this time, but to avoid very thick vegetation, which the camels were very reluctant to go through. But pop out we did, and some beautiful rocky knolls give a fantastic vista. And when you look west, I can see the water tower and a telephone mast of Jalan, the community, which we'll probably reach in 2 days' time. And it was to Jalan that Thomas was travelling when he landed on that beach at Soe, because Jalan was the home of the paramount sheikh of the region, and it was to see him that Thomas had to go to negotiate camels and guides. So we are also heading for Jalan. I understand that the governor of Jalan is very kindly organising a welcome for us. We have a fantastic photograph to show him when we get to Jalan of Thomas and his men outside that fort in 1927. So I hope he finds that of interest. But a fantastic day, learning, remembering what works, what doesn't work when you're travelling in the desert, learning the very limited battery capacity of mobile phones, for example, and communications and radio batteries and sat phones, and trying to make sure that we're all interconnected and able to communicate when we're not able to see each other, and all sorts of things like that. And Nigel and Ibrahim had a good couple of hours trying to dig out one of the vehicles, but again, all part of the learning process, and good to develop those skills, how to use sand ladders and shovels pretty quickly. But tomorrow will be significantly easier than today, less sandy, more gravel plains as we approach Jalan. But everyone's in good spirits. The moon is up. Venus and Saturn are up again just underneath the rising moon. So the wind is dropping. It's going to be another beautiful night. And I think after the exertions of today, I think we're all going to sleep pretty heavily. It didn't take too long to ratchet up 35,000 steps. Then that was just before lunch today. So I think we're all going to sleep well tonight. But it's just a glorious day. Butterflies and moths everywhere. Dozens of bird species and beautiful foliage and vegetation. So a great welcome to Arabia Felix, this beautiful country called Oman, and this is just day 1 of 30. So what a treat we're in for, and we look forward to sharing day 2 with you tomorrow, which I hope is going to be as varied and as eventful as today.